Ashley, let's move on to the second email today.
Next one is from Willmer Vastos. Hello, good people. Okay, so we know that Bob Iger made it pretty clear that Deadpool would be under a different banner than Marvel once Disney got him. But I read a story today that insisted Deadpool was actually going to be in the MCU. The source only came from one site that I've never read before, but it seemed to have some traffic, and they never named their source. So is Deadpool going to be in the MCU or not? Thank you for the great show. I never miss it.
Rob, it's the Deadpool issue again. We're talking about Deadpool again. Okay, this seems to be an ever-shifting landscape talking about what's going to happen with Deadpool after the Fox and Disney merger. Now, for a while, there was some speculation that, man, Deadpool could never live over there because unless it's going to be PG-13, then Bob Iger comes out and says, hey, we might have some room for R-rated material. Then later it comes out and says, yeah, we can do things, but we're just going to brand it differently. It won't be under the Marvel or Disney brand or whatever. We're going to brand it differently. Okay, now this new report, and the one site this is coming from, and it's only coming from one site. It's coming from the site called We Got This Covered. And what they are quoting is this. According sources close to We Got This Covered, this is them talking, of course. According to sources close to We Got This Covered, Marvel Studios will 110% be putting Deadpool into various Marvel Cinematic Universe releases. This will reportedly include PG-13 films, though Wade's own solo movies will continue to be R-rated. Okay, so Rob, we've got this being said now by We Got This Covered, which, in at least on its surface appearance, seems to fly directly in contradiction to what the High Lord Emperor of all things, Bob Iger, said about Deadpool when he said, "Yeah, there's room for it, but we're gonna brand it differently because we don't want to consume the audience. We don't want to confuse the audience. So we're gonna have it under a different brand so we don't confuse the audience." What is coming out of this report seems to say, oh, no, we're going to have Deadpool in the MCU, PG-13, and then have his standalone movies, which will be rated R. And doesn't that directly go against what Bob Iger was saying about, like, we're going to make sure we don't confuse the audience? Well, if you have Deadpool in PG-13 and then have him in R and you have him bouncing back and forth, that could be a little bit confusing and it could cause a little bit of things. But I mean, anything is possible at this point, Rob. I mean, I don't think anything is set in stone regardless of what Bob Iger has said in the past. I believe it is still possible, however unlikely, that we could see Deadpool pop up in the MCU films, even though Iger seems to have suggested otherwise at this point. So, Rob, let me ask you this. If you're one of Bob Iger's top advisors, which we all know secretly you probably already are.
Oh, come on, man. I'm a paid shill for Bob Iger. He's my hero. He actually is my hero.
He is. Oh, he's a lot of people's heroes. But you are one of his top advisors.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he turns to you and says, okay, Rob, forget everything I've said before. What should we do with Deadpool at this point? Understanding that we want to take advantage of the popularity of the character, but we also want to protect our relationship with our consumers being a Disney brand. What's the best thing for us to do, Rob? How do you answer him?
Well, you know, Bob, when he calls me and I call him back on speed dial, and he always picks up my phone because I bypass his assistant. What happens is Bob and I have really been discussing what the disposition of the 20th Century Fox brand is going to be.
Right.
So if 20th Century Fox is going to exist as an entity where we still get the 20th Century Fox logo, the great fanfare, all of that, then Deadpool can continue to be released as an R-rated film under the 20th Century Fox banner. And there's no problem. At least that's what Bob says to me. They're still trying to figure out what they're doing with the disposition of 20th Century Fox. Obviously, they've brought over a number of executives. Fox Searchlight seems to be continuing their Oscar, their brand over there. So I think there's no reason, being that Deadpool is such a financially successful and viable franchise, that they don't continue to release R-rated Deadpool movies, you know, because they still have the Marvel logo on the front of them. You know, the Marvel logo's on Deadpool movies now. So the marketplace is not going to be, you know, the general movie-going audience is not going to have a problem. Now, whether Deadpool will be in the actual MCU is something else entirely. And I gotta admit, I mean, Bob's still having conferences, not just with me, but with many of other top advisors within Alan Horn. They're still trying to figure it all out. And Kevin Feige, you know, they didn't really create the Deadpool persona over there. So the MCU, I would say right now, at least with the meetings that I've been in, the phone conferences that I've been in with Bob and Kevin Feige, they're still trying to figure out what they're going to do with mutants in the Fantastic Four. But I'm waiting for that call because as one of their top men, as it were, one of their top advisors, top men, they don't know yet. But I think that it's really down to the disposition of 20th Century Fox, and then it comes down to what they want to do with the mutants in the MCU, and that is currently undecided, at least from the conversation I had with Bob yesterday when he was playing tennis with me.
Now, I'll say this, all kidding aside. I still honestly think that the real answer here, I think the best course of action, although I don't think there's only one course of action. I don't think there's only one path to victory here. The way I see it, though, I kind of think maybe the best course of action is kind of what Bob Iger alluded to earlier, which is have Deadpool, keep making Deadpool movies, but keep it completely separate so we don't upset or cause any possible confusion with families that trust the Disney brand, right? So you keep it R-rated and you keep it completely separate. I believe you are playing with a little bit of fire by trying to have Deadpool float in and out of the MCU. Like, oh, right now, Deadpool's a PG-13 character. And then 6 months later, he's an R character. And then, having like parents go, wait a minute, I just took little Billy to go see Deadpool in a movie a while ago and it was perfectly family friendly. And now this, if Iger is concerned about that, the best course of action to me seems to be keep it separate. However, that doesn't mean I think it's the only thing that can happen. I don't know if I buy this story that Marvel is 110% going to have him in the MCU, but I still think it's a possibility. Because, look, Iger says one thing one day, new information can hit him over the course of 6 months, and go, okay, I can have my mind changed. If you present me with good, compelling new information, I can change my mind. That's what intelligent people do. And I think it's still a possibility. I still think the best route is keeping him separate. But this idea that you float him back and forth, there are advantages to that. And, if somebody might want to try something as wild as that, maybe the MCU's doing it. Maybe Kevin Feige comes up with a game plan of how to execute something like that. I don't know. I'm just going to say right now, I think it's a possibility, but I still think that the smart money is on the fact that they keep them completely separate. But I'm sure we're going to find out more in the months to come.